points, of course. If they could get the win here, you almost lock it in. Let's go ahead and take it down to the table and see what we have in store for ourselves.
Yes, as Chip introduced, it is going to be Jake Gearhart going up against Rahul Reddy. The Lugia up against the Lugia counter.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Jake was looking for, but maybe not in the form of Rahul Reddy, as Rahul does have a very interesting tech line of that Espeon VMAX.
Yeah, one of those, hey, well, if other decks are attacking for going up against Lugia, I mean, I can throw in something too. And this Espeon VMAX has been so useful, and it's such a cool card to see in action.
Yeah, Solar Revelation is incredible ability that this Pokemon has, and it really does help out in so many of these matchups. The paralysis is something that's so big to avoid, and sometimes you get to take advantage of the energies on the other side of the board with that Max Mindstorm.
Yeah, and I mean, when you have a deck like this Origin Form Palkia that can turbo get those water energies on, that's going to not necessarily be the best case going up against something like an Espeon VMAX.
Well, we will see what Jake has in store for us, as this could be a little bit of an uphill battle working through the Espeon. It is just a 1-1 line, so let's see if Rahul can find the cards to get it out.
Yeah, there is a counter, but there's a... You have to see, we've seen plenty of times that players aren't able to quite get the cards they need in order to be taking this win. And to start things off, Jake's N, a lone Sobble up against the Lugia V-Start for Rahul.
Oh my goodness, look at this start. Has double Archeops in the hand there, and the Ultra Ball is the perfect way to get things going here on stream when you're looking for a big win to get into the top 8.
Yeah, we see sometimes with those Lugia decks that they have to go digging a little bit to try and find the Archeops. Maybe that opening Ultra Ball has to maybe be for an Archeops that they can then discard later on. But instead, having the Archeops in hand can discard both of them right away. And it often said to use this Ultra Ball to get this Espeon V onto the bench.
Well, there's going to be a short turn one here for Rahul. Did exactly what he needed to do. One Lugia down, and of course that Espeon V. And now it's on to Jake to get things rolling here. The Sobble is a great starter. Keep Calling can be such a useful opening attack to start getting the setup, but we know how slow this is. We'll see if that starts to play into the prize exchanges in this game.
Yeah, it's such a great move to be able to get these Sobbles out, but still, you have so much more ground to make up as well. Capacious Bucket, another great item in this list. Being able to search the deck for up to 2 water energies, put them right into your hand.
Always a great start here, and going to take advantage of looking through the deck, making sure that you understand what is prized. And in this deck, there's not too much that you're looking for. There are the 2 Articuno. You want to make sure that you have an opportunity to work those in at the right time, but mainly just want to make sure that you have enough Pokemon to play down on your bench to make the most of that Palkia V-Star. If you can keep up with the damage output of the Lugia deck and continue to apply pressure, maybe even apply pressure on that Espeon V before you see the VMAX, that's a great way that Jake can continue to work in his paralysis strategy in the mid-game.
Yeah, if you can just take care of that one pesky little Espeon VMAX, and then be able to steamroll afterwards, that definitely could be the way into victory. An energy attachment onto the Sobble, and it will be a Serena to follow up to be able to draw up to 5.
Yep, we just love seeing the versatility of this card. It's been so great. It, of course, can target down those V Pokemon when you need to, but in the early stages, just go ahead and get yourself some additional cards and try to get a setup going here.
Especially to the Sobble in the active, sure, you'll be able to get more, but being able to see as many cards as you can possible, because you want to make sure you're having that follow-up after all of the Sobbles and being able to get to the Drizzile and make use of that Shady Dealings.
Well, Rahul is going to start turn number 2 here with the namesake of the deck, that Lugia V-Star. And of course, Summoning Star is a fantastic ability. We're going to see that instantly played down. And that means that Rahul has plenty of energies to go ahead and make quick work of this Sobble here.
This might be the quickest and most clean Lugia setup that we've seen in a hot second. That was, you're good to go. The evolution incense was in hand for the V-Star. You can already start putting the energies on. You didn't have to really sacrifice anything to get this going whatsoever. This is the most ideal start.
And this is one of my favorite parts about the deck for Rahul and the crew, as they do play a nice mix of these special energy cards. We do see that V-Guard energy, of course, which could be beneficial when you're working in the additional damage that a Palkia V-Star can bring. You want to reduce that damage down as much as possible. And that first energy that we saw, that is that gift energy. It is so crucial to have the potential to, after you lose this Lugia V-Star, have an opportunity to refill the hand.
And which is so nice. If you're losing an attacker and you're losing something like this Lugia V-Star, to be able to just have cards that keep on playing the game. Some players, they'll be in a nice spot and then just get kind of stuck, and this kind of allows it to not happen whatsoever. Back over to Jake, though. Sobble, of course, in the active, but with that Evolution Incense, we'll be able to get a piece to start getting the shady dealings going.
Yeah, we do see that Evolution Incense, but the hand leaves something to be desired. We saw a couple of boss's orders, it looked like, and it's just not really the setup you're looking for. A Palkia V on the opening turn would have been fantastic. Instead, it's going to be a little bit slower now. The Irida going to be the card of choice. Plenty of energies to choose from, but you got to get these basic Pokemon down first if you want to get anything rolling. Looks like the Radiant Greninja could be a nice find here, as maybe you can turn those energies into cards.
At least with the Irida, we'll have the opportunity to go get something, and as well with the Quick Ball, we'll be able to grab that Radiant Greninja and put that on the bench. Get to see a lot of cards now flooding the hand. There is a water energy for the concealed cards as well, being able to go in with that Capacious Bucket.
With the amount of water energies that we've seen by way of the Capacious Bucket, you'd think that the deck has 8, 9 energies. It's just the 6 basic water energies. They're just going to continue to be reused and, of course, used to the maximum ability, throwing them away with that concealed cards and eventually trying to make them come back onto the field by way of that Palkia V-Star.
And being able to just have the discard for those water energies is so nice. Scoop up net on the active Drizzile at this point. It's so nice. I mean, being able to just have this engine, keep having access to another Sobble that's around, to be able to pull that back up into a Drizzile is just so nice. And we're starting to build up a bit of a hand.
You can see the hesitation there for Jake of which Pokemon to promote in this spot. If you leave a Sobble or Drizzile eventually in the active, that's probably just going to be the next Pokemon that Rahul knocks out. So going to go ahead and bring up the Radiant Greninja, valuing the resource of being able to evolve these Pokemon and continue to use Shady Dealings.
At least there is the Sobble that was in the hand, and we're going to get a full bench here. The Origin Form Palkia will be dropped in energy on it as well. We're going to see the Articuno make an appearance.
This is probably one of the scarier turns in the game right now for Jake. That one Origin Form Palkia V down, and we see that Rahul was thinking ahead and does have some powerful energies if he needed to move past and knock out a Palkia V-Star. Going to have plenty of energies to knock out just the 220 hit points here of the Palkia V.
Yeah, it would have been so nice to get that Palkia V a little sooner so you could try to get it evolved, try and, accelerate the energy, have something with just a little bit more HP, but a little turn behind on there, it definitely hurt. Now back over to Rahul, and it's going to be an Aurora energy on to that Espeon VMAX.
It doesn't get much cleaner than this. This has been a near flawless setup. There are 2 cards in the discard pile, and we already see the full setup right now. The Espeon VMAX, Lugia V-Star, Choice Belt to go along with it. And if there was only a knockout here on the Palkia V, a Serena, a Boss's Orders, this would have been incredible, but gonna just have to play with this small hand right now, at least an additional prize here.
I mean, the deck has been pretty good to Rahul so far, all things considered with the setup. You can't have everything right. There has to be a little setback in not being able to get that Boss's Order or Serena at this point. So just with the Radiant Greninja KO'd, Rahul will take another prize before going back to Jake, promoting this Origin Form Palkia V.
Yep, and as you start to put together the math, is it possible for this Palkia V-Star to take a knockout on a Lugia in one shot? Absolutely not. It's just not going to have the reach, the V-Guard energy on there in combination with the high hit points. It's going to have to be a combination of Pokemon to remove this big Lugia V-Star.
And that's the issue too. Sure, you can get to such good damage output with this Palkia V, but when there's something like that V-Guard energy, you're kind of in a tough spot.
We do see Jake is considering if maybe another Palkia V needs to come down into play. How can you space out the attackers in this situation in order to knock out the Lugia and then work in an Articuno chain? It might have to be by use of that Inteleon at some point, maybe working in an Aqua Bullet to take a knockout, and we do see that Pokemon in play using the Shady Dealings to help out.
And it will be a scoop up net just to put that back into hand so you can keep the dealings going. Drizzile evolved up to go right back into the deck.
Looks like I'm gonna just keep looking, and we do see plenty of energies in the discard pile. Just at this point, where do you want to accelerate them? Would love to see an attack here from the Palkia V-Star at some point, and just considering now how much damage needs to be done, and going to increase that a little bit here with the Choice Belt.
Yeah, trying to find some way that the damage output can be increased by any means. It was still a tough, tricky spot to be in. We are going to see now from this Palkia, this is the V-Star power, the Star Portal, being able to attach 3 water energy from your discard pile to the water Pokemon. But the boss's order, you're not going to have to worry about going through a Lugia V-Star if you can just bring something else in the active. But this has a lot of hit points too.
Yeah, I love this from Jake. We did see the double boss's orders, and that means that he has an opportunity now to just attack into the Espeon VMAX, has the energies on the Drizzile, which could eventually be an Inteleon, and he just has the second boss's orders ready to go. He can bring that Espeon back up if it does get back to the bench, and once you remove that threat, we can see Paralysis start working its magic.
Yeah, you have the counter to the Lugia deck. You just need to make sure you're in the position to be able to do it. And if this Espeon VMAX can be removed from play, well then, there you go.
Well, Rahul certainly understands what's happening here. That is a very valuable resource in that Espeon VMAX. Gonna get the double turbo on there, probably for a retreat, and we'll see if there's enough reach to take the knockout. I believe we already have that lined up here with the double powerful and the Choice Belt on the Lugia V-Star. So we're going to see just a little bit of thinning.
Just anything that is in your deck that you do not want, get it out of there so you're not drawing back into it. You want to make sure you have the pieces available when possible. Lumineon V onto the bench to search out a supporter, and that will be the Marnie picked up.
Yeah, this is a great read from Rahul, understanding that the setup is pretty obvious at this point. And when I see 2 energies on a Drizzile, I think I know what's happening next too. So go ahead and make this just a little bit tougher. If you can get the Marnie to stick, maybe avoid a Drizzile or an Inteleon on the following turn, you can put yourself in a fantastic spot.
It all goes down to that though, if the Marnie sticks, because we've seen players just draw the craziest of hands after the Marnie as well. Jake, with the Drizziles and the Sobbles, as long as your cards are okay enough, there will be an Irida also grabbed off of those 4. There's ways to get out of it.
Well, looking at the hand, we do see the Irida, which could help out, but I don't know if there's a way to handle this. And yeah, there's no out. This isn't a typical Palkia build here. You're not going to see cross switchers being able to reach and grab these Pokemon. Instead, a quick win here for Rahul, and what a fantastic way to get things rolling, showing off the power of that Espeon VMAX.
The Espeon VMAX is so cool, and it's that type of game with Lugia that makes people want to play Lugia, because that was really, the setup was flawless. It was such a clean start. The Archeops were right there. The evolution intent was right there. That's the, okay, maybe Lugia is what I want to play from right now, if it does that every time.
Yeah, there was a fun conversation going on after LAIC of, we understand the dominance of the Lugia build, but at some point, is it ever going to take a different shape and become just an engine? We'd see the Lugia, of course, be able to use Summoning Star, get those Archeops down, but at what point can you really extend the amount of Pokemon that you have in this deck and start to target different decks? And I think we're starting to see that now, Rahul, with the Espeon extension, the Stoutland, of course. There's plenty of attackers in this deck, but I don't think people were ready to include evolution lines in there. They wanted to just take advantage of these special energies and play these amazing rare Pokemon. And I think this is maybe Lugia 2.0 now.
I mean, it's definitely an exciting turn for the deck to take, because with such a strong engine like the Lugia and the Archeops, and the fact that it is just the special energy that's being accelerated, it does really leave so much potential for these Lugia decks to really be able to evolve. And it'll be intriguing in a couple of months' time to see just exactly where these lists are sitting.
I do love the fact that the Espeon only requires that 1 psychic energy. You don't really have to manipulate the counts of the Auroras or add some additional energies, still continuing to play that Heat Fire energy as the 5th colored energy. So a very nice find there from the boys as Rahul is looking to potentially close out here and make his way into the top 8.
Yeah, this is the last round of Swiss.
Oh, no.
But,
3 water energies to start things off here.
Oh, that's a tough blow when this is your tournament life on the line for Jake's end. Starting with the Origin form Palkia V, being able to get the Battle VIP pass, about to get the bad news and where this water energy are sitting.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be difficult. Of course, you see the Battle VIP pass, the favorite card to play down on turn 1, but you're not going to see a lot of those e-reader borders in that deck. There's only 1, 2, maybe there's water in hand. This is not pretty.
It definitely is not. And when you already have a tough matchup in the fact that you're going up against this Espeon VMAX that can fare so well into you, you can't really have things like that go wrong. It'll be a Sobble and a Radiant Greninja grabbed off of the VIP pass and Capacious Bucket for 2 out of your 3 energy.
The energies. He has 2 Capacious Bucket in hand, and these are the only energies in the deck.
I mean, at least that's you're getting something there, but this definitely is not the greatest of news for Jake.
Yeah, well, at least that Capacious Bucket can be some quick ball fodder.
Oh, that sounds so bad to hear. That's not. We want the Battle VIP passes and following turns to be fodder. We don't want the Capacious Buckets to necessarily go anywhere. Another Battle VIP pass, though, at least what you lack in energy, you can make up for in Pokemon.
Yeah, this is the best part about playing these decks is when you do find the Battle VIP passes, you can flood the board with all of these Pokemon to the bench. Don't have to bring up that Sobble and feel awkward. You know that you're not going to be attacked on the opening turn by the Lugia V-Star deck, so can feel pretty comfortable with that Palkia V in the active as well.
Yep, and water energy to the Palkia or debating. You have to be so careful with the energy at this point too and where it's sitting because you do not have the luxury of multiple energy to really be playing around with. Everything has to be so deliberate. Just the attach and pass now over to Rahul and going to start it off with the Evolution Incense, assumingly to search out an Archeops.
Yep, depends on what's in the hand, of course, but Archeops is a fantastic find in the opener. You want to get those into the discard pile as early as you can. Looks like we do see some of the ball search there, the quick ball at least, and an ultra ball, very nice.
Yeah, you didn't start with both of the birds in the hand, but you definitely have plenty of other means to make sure those can get pitched to the discard as soon as possible. An ultra ball going down, going to be throwing away that freshly picked up, oh, even with the Archeops instead. Keeping that in hand?
Yeah, we'll see if it is going to find the discard pile at some time. Looks like there was some interesting choices with the energies in hand. Maybe wants to preserve those. The quick ball is going to go ahead and toss the Archeops at this point, and we'll see the Lumineon. And yeah, I love seeing the Marnie here. Maybe a little bit of disruption, but mainly just preserve those energies. You don't want to have those in hand. You'd rather keep those in the deck for the Archeops later on.
That's where you can start to get a little bit of awkwardness with the Lugia decks if all of a sudden you're trying to get that ball surge, make sure that you can get the Pokemon you need out of your deck, and the only thing you're looking at in your hand is these special energies because resource management is oh so important. Marnie now, make sure that Jake doesn't necessarily potentially have the cards that he wants to be playing around with.
Well, this is certainly some good cards here for Rahul. We do see the Espeon in the hand there, and maybe some consideration for maybe that V-Guard energy. Perhaps that could be of assistance in sticking around an additional turn with this Lugia V. Rahul, of course, doing the finger flutters, trying to figure out if the math will help out, and it looks like this is going to be a tough call. Yeah, going to go with the gift energy instead, so understands the reach is there for Jake. The choice belt could probably have got the job done anyways. Just guarantee yourself some additional cards to go for a turn 2 Lugia V-Star.
Yeah, and that's good reason then to bench the other Lugia V. You do still have a backup plan if this active one, if things go a little bit sideways, that you still go for that summoning star on the next turn. Yep, gone, and that's 2 birds now in the discard.
Yep, with 1 stone. Read the Wind, gonna get some additional cards into the hand, and Rahul has plenty of resources to go into this next turn now. Jake gonna have to get something rolling, and of course that Evolution Incense could be a nice key here.
Yeah, be able to go and grab a Drizzile. get the shady dealings, be able to have more than just the 4+1 off the beginning of the turn from the Marnie to be playing around with. And then after that, with the Drizzile, where do you want to be going here with this Origin Form Palkia, knowing what we know on Jake's end with these prizes?
Yeah, it's difficult. Of course, you don't want to overextend with energies and use the Star Portal a little too early. Then you walk into some issues with that Espeon VMAX as an attacker. So maybe you just want to play it a little bit slow, get the energy onto the Palkia, and you just need to get one more Pokemon onto the bench at this point to be able to knock out the Lugia for 220. I think as long as you're continuing to build up on the board, always keep at least one Drizzile and one Sobble down, you keep the avenues available to eventually work in your strategy of knocking out this Espeon and using the Articuno.
And then at this point, was that just the capacious bucket for for the lone 1 energy? That's a pretty telling sign over on Rahul's end at that point.
Yeah, it did better than we thought it would. It just took the Marnie to help out there, but just one single energy and Rahul's going, oh boy, what in the world does that mean? Do you have 3 in hand? What's going on?
Yeah, where'd all the energy go? That's not what I expect to see. Level ball follow up here now. I mean, it's such a strong engine here with the Drizziles that you just keep going and going and going with being able to just set up and get more and more cards into your hand.
We'll see where the reach is here. Jake looking at that Serena and wants to go after that Espeon V, a fantastic target here. And this is the real problem with Rahul's deck, is that you need a turn to evolve this Pokemon. And if Jake is going first, that means that a turn 2 knockout is certainly available. Huge play here right now from Jake.
Yeah, being able to go for this Star Portal, start loading up the few water energies that he does have in that discard to be able to get this KO onto the Espeon V and just play against a now standard Lugia deck.
And I think Jake likes playing against standard Lugia decks, as his Twitter would say.
Yeah, there's a reason that this deck was able to make it so far, and it's feasting on the standard basic Lugia. And at this point now, over on Rahul's end, we'll be able to evolve those Lugia Vs into these V-Stars and go for that Summoning Star to grab those Archeops out of that discard and throw them on the bench.
Yeah, the one thing that I do like here for Rahul is that we've only seen the one Marnie. There's certainly some reach to see some additional hand disruption at this point, and we don't see a Sobble down for Jake. That means that it would have to just be the Inteleon to assist in continuing to chain together using the Articuno and getting the paralysis going here. So if Rahul just takes this knockout and maybe can get some hand disruption, there is a world where Marnie just invites Jake to the party.
Yeah, the engine definitely slows down a lot over on Jake's end if you can't be chaining the Sobbles and Drizziles constantly to be able to get more and more going. At this end, just make sure all the energies are accounted for. The Aurora energy onto the Illuminion.
Yeah, it's, the Luminion is a cute play, as it, of course, can knock out the Articuno, but maybe there's an opportunity where if your opponent does skip a beat with the paralysis, that you can just loop this Luminion at some point. You're asking a lot from your opponent to miss out on those cards when they do have an Inteleon line, however.
Yeah, and at this point, with the KO now on to that Origin Store Palkia V-Star, the Articuno going to be put into the active. Irida now played out, and we could be close to a paralysis on the horizon. And we see the emergency jelly. One of the reasons why this Articuno can be so good come to the front of the deck.
Yeah, this is such a great addition to this strategy now. You can make multiple uses of the Wild Freeze and really just disrupt the Lugia V-Star deck. They do not like to play ways to switch this Pokemon out. And of course, we see the quick shooting there from the Inteleon. This can be a great way to manipulate the math so that you can knock out a Pokemon and on their turn so that the paralysis continues to stay in play.
Yeah, the longer that you can have a Pokemon paralyzed in that active slot, the more your opponent just simply cannot play the game, and you can be setting yourself up for that success in that moment. And Lugia V-Star will be paralyzed on this turn. So now, got to look for where this response can be over on Rahul's end.
Love seeing Jake targeting down the Lugia. This means that with the quick shooting, you can continue to compile that up, and maybe one more scoop up net could make use of a double quick shooting at some point to remove this Lugia.
Now, a couple more energies making their way onto the field. Get to see another one on the Luminion, but of course, with that paralysis, you can't attack, you can't really do too much, and it just has to be passed back on over to Jake.
And this is where Jake likes to hang out. He's
Yep.
got the emergency jelly, he's got the Articuno, and Irida, and a lot of ways to search through the deck at this point. Just continue to chain together pieces that can be beneficial at this stage. And we will see the second Articuno here now being looked after.
Make sure you can start getting that set up, that there's no possible way that you can be denied this paralysis lock, that you'll always have a response, you'll always have an answer. The emergency jelly is a great one, and then having the Articuno as one setup on the bench could be great as well. Though also kind of eyeing up the Pokia.
Well, it's worth mentioning that I don't think there's any more energies available, and that's terrifying. Some prize cards are going to have to be taken here for Jake to assist. As just looking through the deck right now, I'm not seeing any help, and we've already seen Star Portal.
Yeah, was able to grab one off of the prizes, but with two of those water energies still hanging out there, it's still kind of an uncomfortable spot, but Ordinary Rod grabbed off of the Irida is definitely a welcome sight.
That is perfect. Yeah, we saw the wash energy in there as well, so we'll have some reach to continue to keep Articuno in the mix. We see the emergency jelly going to full effect there, as it is going to keep Articuno around, and Lugia up to 180 damage now.
Yeah, that Articuno, without that emergency jelly, it would just KO itself eventually with that Wild Freeze and would make it significantly less strong than where it is. So all of a sudden you get two paralysis off, you get a little bit of damage, and that emergency jelly is going to come in clutch.
Now, don't expect to see a build like Charlie's when we had Charlie Locker featured on the stream. He was playing the 3 emergency jelly. He also had a way to bring that back with the Roseanne's backup and the Pal Pad, so you could chain together the jelly back to back to back. Instead, it's not going to be the case here. Jake playing just the 1 emergency jelly, and not seeing a way to bring that back, so just needs to buy a couple turns and feels safe with that.
A little bit more aggressive, not the necessarily paralysis lock, but paralysis lock you out of the game until I'm confident enough in being able to close this out the old-fashioned way.
Yep, Jake does take prize cards pretty quickly, and we can see already with 2 prize cards down, and certainly some more lined up here with the damaged Lugia in the active position. Jake has to be feeling pretty comfortable here.
Yep, just going to quick ball away a Manaphy. Believe that was a Drapion that he grabbed off of that.
Yep, I'm just going to throw that into the hands now, and I think that there's enough damage to take a knockout. No, that'd be a little premature, I guess. You don't want to exactly knock that Pokemon out. You want to have it paralyzed.
Yeah, though it is sitting there with a stack of damage counters, getting closer and closer to that 280 mark to start things off over on Rahul's end. Gonna go for that Marnie. We've seen Jake get out of these Marnies pretty handily. Well, you just need one to stick.
Wow, looking at Jake's hand, he found not only the scoop up net if he wanted to use the quick shooting again, but I think he just has another quick shooting Inteleon in hand. And that is a great way to remove Lugias from play.
Yeah, and only 2 prizes remaining, able to find another water energy off of that, and it'll be attached onto this benched Articuno.
Well, you can see a world where Jake just does take these 2 prize cards pretty easily at this point. Rahul gonna stick things out and see if there's a strategy. Maybe something with that Luminion, but seems almost like a lost cause at this point.
Yeah, you don't want to be scooping a game where you have a win potential, especially when you're so close to getting into this top 8. But you also do need to know that, hey, once this is done, we need to go to a game 3 so I can try and lock things up, because a tie isn't really going to benefit anyone potentially.
Yeah, both players are sitting at 33 points. We think 34 could potentially be the bubble, so risky to have a tie in these spots. Would love to see a winner here. And just another pass of the turn, it looks like, for Rahul.
That has to be the worst feeling too, just constant pass. I can't really do much. I'll Marnie, but you're just going to get out of it. I can get maybe a couple cards, but they're not really helping me because I can't do anything with this active Pokemon.
Jake is going to go ahead and make sure to get the paralysis in, but that is going to be a knockout on himself with the Articuno.
Yeah, that's why a couple of other lists are featuring more than one emergency jelly, but considering this is a, hey, I do still want to take prizes, is just going to sacrifice that Articuno, get a fresh one, and keep the paralyzing going on for a little bit longer. Stoutland finding its way onto the bench over on Rahul's end. It was a free prize from the Articuno, but Jake still only needs the 2 to close things out.
Yeah, the high hit points is something that Rahul is going to rely on. We saw that the quick shooting did go down onto the Lugia V-Star to try to make that a little bit easier to knock out. And of course, the quick shooting is going to occur here on the active Pokemon. Rahul is banking on the loop here of the Luminion. Wants to see if he can buy a couple turns now, and I don't think the math checks out here. I think Articuno can just continue to freeze.
It's the problem with the Articuno is it's, sure, you have the Espeon in your list, and that's cool until it's gone. But then we've seen a couple of different Lugias, and being able to play something like that one-off Birdkeeper, which isn't in this list. So once this paralysis comes on through, you're kind of stuck dealing with it.
Well, we'll see if the energies are available. And yeah, I was getting worried for a second, but it looks like the training court is going to be found here for Jake, and that is so crucial. That was the last thing that Rahul was waiting to see. And as soon as that energy was found, going to scoop up the cards. Jake Gearhart taking game number 2 here.
Now we have to head on into this game 3 to see who can close it out and make their way into that top 8. The Lugia going up against the Lugia counter, and both putting on a show.
This is going to be great. We have 20 minutes, the perfect amount of time to play one final game of Pokemon here with everything on the line. Both these players working so tirelessly to get through the tournament here in Toronto and try to make their way back into the top 8. Jake Gearhart would love to add that accomplishment to his list. We have seen this player with a top 16 finish in Salt Lake, and Rahul almost making an unfortunate name for himself as a player who makes the top 8 but never closes out at these regional events. Has one more opportunity now.
That's always a hard reputation too, because it's like, yay, there's a consistency, but oh, I'm also known for not winning an event. So it kind of hurts either way.
Well, I guess making it there is pretty nice. You got to be invited to the dance if you want to try.
That's true. And of course, if able to make it, will be representative of this Espeon VMAX and just how Lugia can go. We expected a lot of Lugia going into this weekend across all 3 regionals. We've had a lot of Lugia, but the other 2 events didn't have quite as much Lugia in that top 8 as some might have expected.
Yeah, it just wasn't making its way through, and I think that's a testament to these players' ability to hunker down and get the right cards into their deck. And at this point, we've seen that Lugia can be beat. And even now, the prize cards are going to be so important for this matchup, as we know that Rahul's deck can be a little fragile. The 1-1 Espeon VMAX line, no way to look in the prize cards. And if either of those Pokemon hit the discard pile, that's bad news as well.
Yeah, at that point, if anything is prized, you just have to hope that you can take a KO quick enough before this paralysis is up and you're lucky enough to draw into it, or else things aren't going to go. 2 water energy, 3 water energy yet again on Jake's end. I mean, come on.
That's not okay. We're going to have to retire the e-reader series, guys. This isn't working anymore.
The cooler the card is, the more likely it is to be thrown in the prizes. I am certain of that. Rahul's end of things will be Archeops prize, but a lot better off knowing that none of these Espeon pieces are in there.
Yep, I guess that means that Espeon isn't cool, and I don't want to be cool either then. I want to play Pokemon. Quick Ball going to go ahead and look through the deck, and that means that we could see, of course, that Espeon, but the Lugia is also a very crucial piece. Both of those cards almost have to be down on turn 1 if you want to make sure that you can get the evolutions to set up.
The last thing you want to do is not be able to have a Lugia and just pass on over. So, of course, it's going to be an easy prioritization to throw that down there to make sure it can evolve and get the Summoning Star up as soon as possible.
We see a little hesitation there from Rahul. Was considering holding on to the Crobat V, and instead not going to need that. Going to play a little bit slower, get that Espeon V, feel comfortable, and I think there is a supporter for the turn in hand. Could also see Oranguru assisting, maybe just leave that on top of the deck to avoid any shenanigans.
yeah, you can just put that supporter right on top with that Primate Wisdom. Make sure that if there is anything weird coming on by, that you're going to have a supporter in hand. Make sure you're all set to draw into cards, because you do have the Lugia V and the Espeon on board, but no birds in the discard.
Yeah, that is going to be unfortunate there for Rahul. He'd love to see those before making the use of a big supporter like that Professor's Research potentially. And now for Jake, this is where you want to be. We see the VIP pass. I think there was a quick ball as well. This could be pretty close to what Game 2 looked like.
I mean, it definitely already looked like Game 2 just on the moment we saw the prizes. So if it is a run back of that, sure, the prizing situation's a little unfortunate, but everything else worked out pretty nicely for Jake, so he wouldn't complain too much. Battle VIP pass, I mean, could be a great situation to just go for a Sobble, go for that Radiant Greninja, and just be able to get your setup going.
Yeah, the Irida, the level ball, the capacious bucket, everything in the hand there.
Give it to me.
That is right where you want to be. And I think the only thing you need to hesitate about is at least get another Palkia V down, because you're in danger. There's a Lugia V, and anything can happen next turn.
And Capacious Bucket to get 2 out of those 3 energy that you have out of your deck at this point. You got a couple of energy going on.
Well, this is maybe unfortunate, as once again Jake gets the bad news that these might be the only water energies you see for a little bit of time.
Got to be so careful. Was able to get out of that weird situation with this lack of energy in the first game. Ended up working out, and if you're taking 2 prizes, the way it would be drawn, you're probably going to be drawing into those, at least one of them. So if you can keep drawing into them, you could not be in the worst situation.
Just continues to see plenty of resources here for Jake. The Irida now is going to come down, and certainly have to expect more Pokemon onto the bench at this stage. Got to start seeing those Sobbles at some point. Maybe you start thinking of a strategy to target down that Espeon once more. Put Rahul on a clock, force the Espeon VMAX to be found. You can always find a card like Boss's Orders or that Serena eventually, but ultimately, as long as you have a way to get Drizzile, you're feeling pretty comfortable.
Yeah, and off of the Irida, it'll be the V-Star Palkia and the Battle VIP pass to finally get a couple of these Sobbles on the bench.
Oh, good guy Rahul just cleaning up the board for everybody, keeping the game moving. We'll see the quick ball for that final Pokemon, potentially to reach the bench. We do see that Articuno being moved up to the front.
At the Articuno, the whole piece, the Lugia counter in itself, making its way there. You want to make sure that you have that ready and available, that moment to strike to get that paralyze is right there, and you're good for it.
I'm very glad to see that Jake not going for Rule the Region. We know how bad that could be. 0% win rate on stream.
Come on, man.
It's bad play. Never do it. Even if it gets you a card, even if it looks correct, it doesn't work out.
Oh man, well, Water Energy, one of the few, gonna be attached onto that Origin Form Palkia V onto the bench at this point. See if there's anything else that can be done with the setup, but it looks, everything else other than the energy looking good on Jake's end.
We'll see what Rahul can find in this spot. The Professor's Research at least gets the Articuno, but where are the birds?
Yeah, this is a really big change up. This is where Lugia starts to feel kind of bad, because you've gone through some of the quick balls, the ultra balls, you've gone through research, and we're still lacking the Archeops.
Rahul does see at least one. That's going to be left at the top, but this hand is not good. There's a couple of energies, a Stoutland and an Yveltal. Just nothing really to bank on at this stage. Do you just have to go for a Luminion and think about your supporter for next turn?
And that's a rough draw. You've already Professor's Research. If you're thinking about next turn and you're unable to get this Summoning Star going, you have the Lugia V-Star on the field. You're so close, but that last important piece of the puzzle, this Archeops, it was a really easy flow to get that going in the last couple of games, but this one, it's not quite working out. The Aurora Energy attach onto the Lugia V-Star, and that's just a pass.
Of course, the Aurora Energy, we're going to lose that Yveltal as you have to discard a card, but This is a big opportunity now for Jake. The Espeon V did not evolve, and so we do not see the VMAX. That is only 200 hit points, and we already see 7 Pokemon on the bench. That is a perfect knockout for Subspace Swell. Just need to see some energies accelerated and a way to move that Espeon into the active spot here.
Yeah, Jake has so many pieces. Drizzile going to be evolving from that Sobble to get this Shady Dealings to go get a trainer card. Start eyeing things up. That Serena moved right to the top. You can see the gears turning in Jake's head.
Yeah, I'd like to see the regional stamped Serena. Jake's going to have to step it up next time and play that in his deck because that's a nice card too. But I think they do the same effect. It's going to bring up an Espeon V, and that's going to make a sad Rahul.
Yep, because as soon as it's gone, I mean, this is just going to be Jake's playhouse. So you'll have the Articuno on the bench. You'll be able to hopefully draw water energy off of those prizes to make sure you have something to be playing the game with. You'll be all set and go. It will be the Serena confirmed, grabbed, and there it is, Espeon V. It's such a cool looking card, but it's looking so sad right now in that active spot.
Well, Jake is going to get those energies back now. The Palkia V-Star going to use Star Portal for just 2, but 2 is plenty at this stage. Take that big knockout, get yourself 2 prize cards, and start thinking about paralysis.
Yeah, and this is then such a tricky spot for Rahul. You've lost that Espeon V. You still do not have this Lugia engine up and running. I mean, what do you do at this point?
You try to take a knockout, and the only way you're really going to get that going is if you can find the pieces of this Archeops. You have to bank on getting lucky at this stage, and it looks like that is going to be in the hands of Marnie. Can you get invited to the party, get a couple of birds and an Ultra Ball? That's about it that I'm seeing.
I mean, anything's better than what you got going on at this point with the Marnie. You can try and trip Jake up for real use this time with the Marnie and get yourself a couple of cards. Anything better than the 3 that he currently has.
Well, this is also nice to disrupt Jake at this stage, but once again, you just look at the board state, and Jake does not miss. The Sobble and the Drizzile down leave plenty of opportunities. Evolution Instance immediately into the hand there, and I don't think we're going to see Jake skipping a beat anytime soon.
Nope, there's so much going right on his side of the board. It is such a tricky situation. I mean, going into this Game 3 tournament life on the line to make it into this top 8, Jake has so much going right for him. A manual attach of a capture energy onto the bench Lugia V for Rahul. And when you're manually attaching with the Lugia V-Star and that's all you're really doing with your energies, it's a really bad feeling.
Yeah, this is a disaster. I think we're going to see the retreat into Lugia and just try to draw cards, and it's actually correct at this stage. It feels terrible, but read the win. Going to try to find some birds, and maybe if Archeops can get rolling on the next turn, there's an opportunity, but this is going to be a lot of prize cards when Jake only needs a couple, and the paralysis will be in full effect soon. This is 4 prizes easy.
Lugia V, instead of reading the win, needs to read the room. This is a do or die situation. And I mean, the longer that this engine doesn't get up and running, the more and more likely it is for Jake just to be able to win this game. You do have to close it out though, and there's still, you know, you have to make sure all the pieces are aligned. You do not want to throw anything away at this point. Irida for a supporter for turn.
I don't think you could pick a better hand. Jake is holding on to, of course, using that Irida right now, but has a Drizzile, has a Boss's Orders, has a Training Court if things go awry, and energy as well to go with it, and will be drawing into an energy from the prize cards. The perfect amount of Pokemon in play right now. To take a knockout, I don't believe that is a V-Guard. It's just a capture energy on there, so it should be a very clean knockout here on the Lugia V. And Jake's doing everything in his power not to let this one slip, holding on to an Ordinary Rod and taking 2 more prize cards.
And then now just 2 away from closing out the game. And I mean, Rahul, no matter what you kind of throw forward at this point, you're just so far behind. It will be the Lumineon V that's promoted into the active. A couple of cards in hand to potentially play around with, but still no bird.
And once more, another Ultra Ball that does not get rid of an Archeops. Finally finds one, but you start to worry about the resources.
It's 1 bird and about 3 turns too late on this Archeops in this entire setup, and that's a rough feeling. You still have so much ground to make up. Be able to at least get rid of it with this arena and get a couple of more cards. Of course, you're allowed to discard and then draw up to 5. And we'll find the other Archeops and get rid of it with the Quick Ball, bringing out the Radiant Charizard.
Yeah, this means that we will see the Summoning Star from the Lugia V-Star. The Radiant Charizard comes down. If that means we have a choice belt available, then Rahul certainly has an option here for a knockout. We got a little worried when we saw the powerful energy and the opening choice belt down. That meant that Lugia was going to have a tougher time taking the knockout. All the resources really need to be there. And it looks like we will see some powerfuls.
Yep, 2 powerful energy going onto that bench Lugia V-Star, trying to get ready as well as a capture energy and a power energy off of the other Primal Turbo. And this is how the deck is more so supposed to function. This is supposed to be energy that's attached through this ability, not just from hand, turn after turn after turn. It will be attached to the Lumineon in the active, though, to retreat it and bring the Lugia V-Star up.
Well, this is the last-ditch effort here for Rahul to stay in the game, but I think we're going to see this turn around quickly. Jake promoting, has the Palkia V-Star in hand. He's going to bring up that Lumineon. That's game.
And that is going to be the winning in for Jake with this Lugia counter. It was a little rocky, a little shaky to start things off, but with the right cards and a little bit of luck on your side, will be able to take that Lugia counter into top 8.
Oh, I don't know if he's making the confidence up as he goes, but he's going to have the results to back things up. Jake Gearhart, a phenomenal performance here, and with plenty of match points to show for it. Going to be moving on into the top 8 here of Toronto Regionals.
And even with the prize energy, just being able to play around it, you had enough energy. You didn't have that much, but you had enough to close out. That's all that matters.
That's right. And I mean, it's unfortunate for Rahul. He wanted to show off that Espeon and certainly did get to do so in that opening game, but just couldn't find the pieces. And it's understandable when you think about the deck and how Lugia works. You're asking to find so many cards on that opening turn. You need to have that Lugia down and the Espeon, and then you need to evolve both of them and have the birds. It's just not going to work out in some of these games. And of course, Game 3 showed that.
Especially too when you're not really drawing into anything great and you have to start to prioritize, because at the same time, if you get that Espeon V-Star out and then all of a sudden have no cards because you didn't go for that Lugia V-Star, then you're also just in a tough spot. And it was tough blow after blow there to really just make it so this Lugia deck was stuck. That's the type of game where you're like, maybe I don't want to play Lugia. I take back what I said. The game 1 was cool, but that third game, that was really tough to watch.
I mean, I thought that Palkia was dead in the water after looking at LAIC. We had one on stream, and it just got finessed. So seeing it show up here with this incredible build here with the Articuno and finding a really nice way to interact with the emergency jelly and the multiple copies of the quick shooting. I think it's just a strong strategy, and it's been working phenomenally for Jake.
Yeah, Jake's been playing with this Origin form Palkia for a while now. That's showing how long it's been in the format and just how comfortable he is with it. And then revitalized with this Articuno is so cool to see, because this paralysis going up against these Lugia decks is so strong, and it's the perfect time to bring it back.
It's also fun to just see there's a strategy where you knock yourself out and it's strictly correct. Like, when do you get to do that and also potentially become a regional champion?
I know, it's fun also to see these little Pokemon, this little Articuno just out on the field, just doing the biggest of impacts.
Yeah, very cool. It's exciting for Jake, of course. It's going to be in the top 8. It's not going to be the last time that we see the Espeon VMAX